is easy. And once you become a disciple of Jesus, God will bless you with prosperity and long life. Now, in our zeal to convert non-Christian to become believers in Jesus, do we say these things to non-Christian? Do we say this thing to try to persuade them, to believe in Jesus? But is following Jesus truly an easy journey? Now in Luke chapter 14, verses 25 to 35, Jesus was telling us the need for absolute allegiance to Jesus. And then he wants us to assess the cost of discipleship, to be his disciples, and the cost of not following Jesus. Jesus' first discipleship saying seems a bit shocking to us. Because he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brother and sister, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. This saying fits with what Jesus said in Luke chapter 12, verses 51 to 53. Here Jesus said, do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on, there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided. Father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Now, Jesus, because in his person and his message, he is saying that whoever follows him need to give him absolute allegiance to him, which indirectly will cause family disharmony, as mentioned in this Luke chapter 12. But when we examine further, does Jesus actually ask us to hate our biological families and our very life? Now in the Bible, there are 2 observations which are helpful to us when we consider this question. Jesus is actually using hyperbolic language. Hyperbolic means exaggeration when he say something to us. For example, in Matthew 18, verses 8 to 9, Jesus said, if your hand or your foot cause you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands and 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. We can compare this saying of Jesus in Matthew, right? Again to this Matthew chapter 10, verse 37. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. So Matthew here interpret the shocking language of hate to refer to allegiance, absolute allegiance to Jesus. Right? So our primary allegiance should be to Jesus rather than to our family. A second helpful interpretation of the word hate reflects an idiom that comes from the Hebrew language. For example, in Genesis chapter 29, verses 30 to 31, we read that Jacob loved ritual more than Leah, and that Leah was hated by Jacob. Right? So Jesus is not calling his followers to hate their families in terms of emotional response, but he is calling us for undivided loyalty to him. So unless, Jesus is our highest affection, we cannot be his disciple. We must love Jesus more. Here, Jesus must mean more to us than our family, no matter how much we love our families. There are times when our love for our families tries to get in the way of our love for Jesus. For example, we may let our parents discourage us from making a complete commitment to Christ. Also, when a marriage turns inward instead of outward to serve others, out of the strength of a godly partnership. Or when we have this too much attachment to our children and their activities. We spend more time sending our children for piano lessons, swimming lessons, dancing lessons, and have little time to show mercy or share the gospel. So Jesus is telling us here not to let the claims that our family have on us to make us, less in carrying out what Jesus wants us to do. So there are many temptations that comes when we focus too much on our family. So our love for Jesus must take precedence over everything. Luke chapter 14, verse 26, Jesus said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." So self-denial is also a part of the cost of discipleship. We must love Jesus more than our own being. Here, the process of discipleship is stressed here, not the decision to enter into discipleship. Luke chapter 14 verse 27 says, "And anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." To follow Jesus means we will follow Jesus in suffering because the world rejects the disciple of Jesus. Matthew chapter 10 verse 22 says, "All men will hate you because of me, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved." Right? Again in John 10, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hates me first. If they persecute you, they will persecute you also." Now, bearing the cross means we are willing to suffer the pain of persecution as a result of following Jesus. A new believer in Jesus may be expelled from his or her family by his or her non-Christian parents. And a Christian employee may lose his or her job because of reluctance to obey the instruction of his or her employer to falsify financial records and income tax return. Right? A Christian employee may lose his or her job for revealing the corrupt practices in a company or an organization. It is a sin not to defend the truth about Christianity. When somebody says something that is not true about Christianity, and if we do not refute any false idea about Christianity, that is a sin. But in doing so, when we try to counter, the false saying about Christianity by our friend, we may lose the friendship with them. And Luke chapter 9, verse 26, Jesus say us, this is a warning Jesus to us. If anyone is ashamed of me and my word, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Father and of the holy angel. Right? So here, Jesus is calling for a passionate pursuit of Him so that we can have dedication and resolve to give up anything to be with Jesus. Right? Now, Jesus does not remove the cost of following Him, but He explained the cost. But unfortunately, many churches today try to eliminate all the cost of discipleship so that those who come to the church will feel comfortable, and then the church must meet their expectation. But this is not training believers to become disciples of Jesus, but rather disciple of self. So Christianity today is being promoted as a glorified, holy coffee house where you can get your coffee, listen to nice music, and be entertained. We must offer nothing more than Jesus, and bringing people in with anything other than Jesus will not make disciple of Jesus, but rather disciple of selves. And Jesus gives two illustrations concerning the need to assess the cost of Jesus. Firstly, building a tower. The tower here does not refer to a fortress, a tower, but more like the farming building. Now, a parallel will be building an extension to a house. Not counting the cost means the project will not be completed, and then the building will be unfinished as a monument to one's foolishness. Jesus declared that one must assess whether one is ready to take on the personal commitment and sacrifice required to follow Him. So following Jesus is not an invitation to ice cream social gathering. Jesus has described the cost of following Him, recognizing that all other concerns take second place to following Him. So the Christian life will cost us everything to follow Him, and we need to sit down and decide whether we can pay the cost. And the second illustration, right, is a king going to war. A king must calculate the cost before going into the battle. To avoid an embarrassing and deadly outcome, the king have to count the cost. It will be foolish to not consider what it will be. If the king just entered the war, right? He must consider what is the cost will be for not aligning himself with a more powerful king, right? If the king recognized that he will not be successful in fighting the opposing king, it will be wise for him to send a delegation for peace. And then faced with the threat of a superior army, the weaker party should consider his resources carefully before deciding to defend himself. Now, there are many missionaries sent out by Sarawak Chinese Annual Conference to do missions in foreign countries. They forgo the comfort of their home and the security of good jobs in Sarawak. They are willing to endure hardship in foreign lands in answering the call of God to them. In Islamic countries especially, Christian missionaries are at risk of imprisonment or even being killed if they are accused of blaspheming Islam or Prophet Muhammad. Now, in Malaysia, there are 4 still missing Malaysian. Pastor Ko, Pastor Joshua and his wife, and Ami Chitmat. Pastor Raymond Ko was abducted by the Royal Malaysian Police on the 13th of February 2017. Most probably because his non-governmental organization was accused of trying to convert Muslims to Christianity through its social and charitable activities. He is still missing with no further information. And Pastor Joshua, the second person on the left, Pastor Joshua Helmi and his wife Ruth, both of them were converts from Islam. They were last seen by friend in November 2016. Right? So you can read all about this in Wikipedia. In an inquiry by the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suhakam, in October 2017, one account was that Pastor Raymond Ko was abducted by a group of men in a convoy on February 13, 2017. And in December last year, Susanna Liu, the wife of Pastor Raymond Ko, had instituted a legal suit against the government and certain personnel of the police. So we hope for a good outcome in 2024. It seems frightening to us to hear that Malaysians could just disappear and the police could do nothing or would not do anything to solve the mystery. The government is not protecting the human rights of its citizens. The first question we must ask is whether we can afford to follow Jesus. And the next question we must ask is whether we can afford not to follow Jesus. We must consider carefully what it will cost us if we do not follow Jesus. Right? Verses 34-35 says, salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil, nor the manure pile is thrown out. See the word thrown out. Right? That salt is cast out. And the cost of not following Jesus is enormous. You'll be cast out of God's presence, cast out of the kingdom of God, and you'll be cast into the lake of fire where there is eternal torment, and the lake of fire, which means hell, a place where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. So in conclusion, we must love Jesus more than our families and even our own being. And in our love for Jesus, we must be willing to suffer persecution, rejection, and discrimination. And the cost of not following Jesus will be eternal suffering in hell. So these are the questions for your reflection afterwards. What are the things that prevent you from giving full allegiance to Jesus Christ as your Savior and Lord? And what is the cost of discipleship that you are experiencing now? Right? Thank you.